to join me for a panel. And so we will have this discussion about continuous API management. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. We will be glad to try to answer them.
Hey there.
Yeah, finally the group.
Magically, yes.
The band is back. So yeah, we have a few questions. I will ask them right after. Don't hesitate to ask the question again on the chat. But first, let's one question. What's really what has changed over the last 3 years? I will ask by that question. What has really changed over the last 3 years? So we needed another book, or at least we have been asked to write another book.
Yeah. Well, I'll volunteer the changes that I saw and the things that kind of came up from the book. You know, there are so many examples of people applying the ideas that we had discovered. Like, you know, we interviewed companies and say, how are you doing this? What is your approach to products? What is your approach to landscape? How do you do teams and things like that? So a lot of times we were, you know, sort of uncovering what people are doing. Well, in the last 3 years or 4 years, really, since we started the research, so many more companies have come up with great ideas on how to organize their teams or how to create discovery platforms, portals, and things like that. That we really needed to update a lot of material in the book on to use common practice. I know Erik doesn't like the idea of best, but like, you know, the idea of like, what's the common practice going on in so many aspects. Even the research, like, you know, we had research about how many people were using APIs and what they were using them for. We needed to update that as well. So it was really good to see the maturity of the, just in the few years that we had first published the first book. That was my impression anyway.
Yeah, I can go next maybe. So from my point of view, and we did include that section in the book, which I still like, on API archaeology, right? This idea of companies saying, oh, we don't yet do APIs, and us always saying, no, you do, maybe you don't, and maybe you should find out where and how. But I think that aspect has changed a little bit, that companies now are more aware of, yes, they're using API anyways, so they might as well start managing them better and the landscape better understanding how to get the most out of it. So I think it really has changed a little bit from this idea of companies saying, we don't even know exactly what this API thing is and how to use it, to really understanding that, yeah, we're using it anyways. This is not a choice. This is just how everybody works nowadays. So we might as well get a little bit more aggressive in terms of figuring out how to get the most out of our investments. And I think this is where we are nowadays, where we see these things just getting bigger, getting more diverse, getting more dynamic, getting more business attention. And I think those changes in the overall space are reflected in the new version of the book.
You're on mute.
The most pronounced sentence since COVID, you're on mute. So Ronnie, you've been, as you said, you were in the API Academy just talking about APIs. Now you work in a company that handles software in its globality. Did you see any importance of APIs as a topic, or no, it's just like one topic amongst the other, in the global digital transformation that companies try to address? Are API your thing? Or not
I
yet?
think, yeah. What's interesting is, firstly, it's not a secret, right? So from the business to the technology, everyone knows the term. What I find fascinating is that after you get out of our community here, right, where we talk about APIs and we talk about hypermedia as if we all know hypermedia, right? And you go out into the world where, people have lots of problems and challenges. That term can mean so many things. Right, so it's definitely pervasive. For a lot of companies, probably when they're talking about APIs, maybe they're just talking about building Spring Boot microservices, right? So for them, that's APIs, and they're not perceiving it as something bigger. For others, they're thinking about it as something as a service, like banking as a service. I think at this point, it's a foundational technology, right? And it's hit the mainstream. But kind of echoing what Mike and Erik have said, Like, look, the truth is, I think the problems are the same as they were 3 years ago, but what's different is the spotlight is on them now, right? So you can probably get more funding to solve these problems today than you could 3 years ago, right? That's my view.
Yeah, yeah. It seems also we see even at the Apidays conferences, we see more and more signups from people who are, I would not say new, because we don't know directly they're new, but when we see on their LinkedIn, you know, they were just promoted API product manager, from architects, from sometimes marketing, from not so many developers, but still some. And so yeah, there is a new wave of new players that are they're in charge of APIs, and they didn't know exactly what it was a few years ago. So yeah, at least on API Days, we see this new generation, this fresh generation who is not bored about these 10 years debate, whatever.
Here's a question for you, Mehdi. I mean, you've been running Apidays, you're almost at 10 years, right?
Almost.
So what's the future of API conferences? I mean, do you continue after the 10? Do you change it? Or are API conferences, have they served their purpose? And are you going to change?
Yeah, it's a good question. The thing is, actually working with you guys, you know, you sharpen my vision on APIs as the interface, right? For me, at some point, I thought we were calling APIs just like the recent interfaces, the recent REST JSON APIs, as we call them, right? And I've read a lot about the software industry, and actually, no, it's just interfaces. So for me, API Days is more a conference about design of software to be reusable, more than, you know, more than just REST JSON, right? You know, and never tie anything to a technology, a product, a company name, whatever. Right. So it's not REST days or JSON days or GraphQL days, right? It's API days. And it could have been subroutine days 70 years ago, you see? You know, so I think, yeah, it's a conference about the design of software. And it's true that vendors pushed the word API as the way to forget the web services idea, right? But I think it's a big mismatch of the use today is made about APIs. They believe it's a technology or it's a way to think software reusability. So yeah, so it's like HMI, human machine interface. Now it's like just a software to software interface or software to human interface. That's for me, that this is why it can stay for forever, as long as we have enough energy to run software. Does that answer your question?
Another 100 years then, right? That's what I'm hearing. Right, fantastic.
As long as
not sure we're making that, but we'll see.
No, I'll be around as long as I can.
Now it's really an important discussion, because it's true that for many new managers, APIs are just a set of technology, specific set of technology and the question we have all the time: how is it different from web services? And we still have that question a lot of the time. And yes, so it's a mindset change. Did you feel it also, Erik?
Mehdi, the one thing that I would like to ask you, like, could you just spend 1 year and the only thing you do is eradicating the term API and coming up with a nicer word for it? Like, I've seen so many occasions where when people hear API, right, like their eyes just glaze over and it's like, oh, that's a tech term. I start looking like somewhere else, right? So I think, like you say, right, like in the end, what we do is we really think about reusability, composability, how to build building blocks, how to build a culture of building and using building blocks, all these kind of things. And I think the term API, right, like it's still something that I see it's causing so many kind of mismatches between people expecting it to be just the tech thing. And when you start talking about, no, it's not just the tech thing, and you still say API, they just won't listen. And I think, you know, if you could just change that term and come up with something nicer that we can use, I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It would be then days conferences.
Everything days.
Everything days.
I don't know a good term, but yeah, like whatever, interaction, whatever. Yeah,
you know,
it's hard. I don't know. I don't know a better term, but I think it's still a term that hurts us.
Amundsen pushed this idea of value proposition interface. Again, that's try to corner it in a way that's more business. But again, I don't know, but business understand machine learning. Business try to understand blockchain. At least it doesn't scare them so much, right? They see an opportunity. But for the last 15 years, the word API has been pushed. it never really took off at this level of like a IoT or whatever, and it's powering all of this. It's pouring all of this, so it's really weird, and I don't know what better word or better thing we could have, but yeah, that's how it is, and yeah, let's be as sexy at NFTs or blockchain.
Maybe just to push further, maybe we need to make it a verb.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's not. We API something.
Okay. Keep
right?
going.
We're gonna API the technology. We're gonna API the devices.
Using API as a word.
As a verb, right? So now you change the game. It's something you do to something. There you go.
Yeah, in the chat,
get some marketing people.
In the chat, we have Frank who say the word
but
API
it's not that
every
people
time.
Blockchain stuff, right? It's like blockchain isn't.
No.
In the chat, we have Frank who say, yeah, every time he says APIs, it goes to the IT guy in the room. So he tried to avoid it. There is Dennis who say solution. It proposed solutions, solution days. Why not?
Yeah.
Or he say contract interface are still a thing. Yeah, but business interfaces are. But again, when I say, oh, APIs are key, you should think about it before you hear about it. And some people, yeah, we don't care. And sometimes I say, yes, but Stripe is worth $100 billion just selling API. I say, oh yeah, tell me more. Sometimes you have to show that, yes, something new they didn't see, and just if they understand the mindset, they may be able to reach some of the results. But again, without this almost this bullish argument, it's really hard to have people on board.
It's an interesting one because so you mentioned Stripe. I think we like to claim Stripe. So Stripe is an API company. Is it though? I mean, Stripe is a payment service provider. They offer services to help people create new startups and businesses. They provide banking as a service place, right? Via an API channel. So, I mean, I don't think we're even clear internally about when we say something is APIs, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and for that, just to say, I will quote two persons. The first is Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the way it's delivered is more important than what's delivered. And the fact sometimes a good payment, this is often what I say, a good payment solution, a really good payment solution that will be horrible to use will be less used than the one who is maybe less featured, but extremely simple to use. So the way to consume it sometimes is more important than the features or the capabilities. And this is why Stripe can be more expensive. People will still use it. So I consider the fact it's delivered by an API is a quality. And I will quote then a second one. It's from Friedrich Engels. But he said, at some point, quantity becomes a quality. And the fact that so many users use it, so many users consume it, the fact they consume it via an API makes it the quality of the payment solution. Just a few things.
I think one of the things that I think we talked about this when we were working on the book, as we dug more and more into the notion of APIs as products and looked at the way companies were treating them as products, we realized so much of what we wanted to explain to people or what we had discovered was just product management and platform management and product portfolio management. That has nothing to do with APIs. It has to do with solving customers' problems, being there for somebody to create the quarter-inch hole, as Christensen would say. So it's almost as if at some maturity point, the API part of the story recedes and it becomes the domain part of the story, like Stripe, right? Stripe is a payment service company, right? It just happens to. So I think we're probably seeing some of that, right? I think that's at least what we're seeing, right, Erik?
Yeah, and that's the reason why, I think like taking the focus off of just the API would be great, because like what you just said, Mike, right? Like in some organizations, you look at their APIs and people are really proud about because they're using, I don't know, HTTP patch. And I'm saying, yeah, that's a nice way of designing an API, but the API that you're designing doesn't really create any business value. It's a weird little thingy that is a nice HTTP design, but it's not a good business API, right? And better separating that part from, first think about what is the thing that you're actually trying to do here before you jump into these technical details. I think that's the part where we still have a hard time. It's like, I spend so much time just trying to keep people away from jumping into the design, the technical design right away, right? It's like, let's talk about HTTP verbs. And it's like, nope, not yet. Let's talk about what we're doing here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the same question would occur like with Amazon. Is Amazon an e-commerce company or a logistics company? You know, what's really key in their success? I think it's the part they are really good at logistics, and then it happens to make e-commerce really simple. So I think Stripe and Twilio have been extremely successful because they were really good at APIs. So their communication they were delivering, which was not the best at the time, but actually was most consumable, and then enabled them to be the best, right? So this is why, and Jeff, I had a discussion with John Sheehan a few years ago. He told me Twilio is not an API company; it's a communication company and happens to have APIs. But actually, we had Jeff Lawson as keynote 6 months ago, and he said, no, Twilio is an API company. So yeah, that's a mindset. That's a mindset sometimes there.
Yeah, definitely.
So also again, but of course, we discuss, and I can be totally wrong. Also, just to go back on the book, what did we add? Just for people asking the question, but what did we add more than the first version, except some updates?
Somebody is vacuuming while they're doing the interview.
It's not me.
Not me either.
Okay.
That's weird.
Okay. So I have the easiest job, I think, in that regard, talking about what we changed for the book, because like I mostly focused on writing this new chapter on API styles. I also did a couple other changes to the landscape chapters that I did mostly together with Mike. But from my point of view, the main change would be that new chapter on API styles that tries to address that bigger diversity that you probably see nowadays in API landscapes. And Ronnie's gone.
Yep, he's had enough. I think the stuff that I think I ended up focusing on a lot is we added a lot more examples, a lot more use cases, a lot more reference material from people that we had met along the way in the previous years. So I think there are more illustrations, more examples of application of the kinds of ideas that we've talked about. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people have come up with much better ways to explain the same things that we were talking about 3 and 4 years ago. So being able to reference their material has also, I think, been a real good benefit as well. That's what I noticed about that. What I ended up changing anyway. Ronnie, you're back.
Hello. Yeah.
Just wanted to move the square. Yes, on my side, it's mostly on my side. What we also added is some examples, some more practical examples or methodologies that you can apply directly. It's true. It's a book to go back, to some chapters and say, yeah, let's see how we handle security again, or what's governance about, stuff like that. To go back, it's not a book to read straight, but a book to also come back, but like some new methodologies, more recent methodologies that can be more actionable to onboard people. It's also what we added.
It's funny because the original version of this, the way we wrote books in the academy, right, was, hey, let's write a book that you never have to update, because we wanted to be timeless.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of you watching this saw the talk I did earlier. I mean, that was kind of that first level of here's the things you need to know behind the scenes of how all this really works, right? So it's big and grand, it's philosophical. That's the academy style, right, back then. Yeah. And I think this new version, as we've all gone out and gotten day jobs again, right? Start working for a living, brings that next level. Okay, if that's the philosophy, here's the tangible examples of it based on what you're seeing right now. And I guarantee the second edition will not be as timeless, right? Because it's a little bit more rooted in the practices of people at the moment. So maybe in 10 years, you need a new edition because everything is DLT at that point.
But just to say, it's a non-breaking change. There is no compared to the first version. It's still, it just added more elements. It's let's say, but so the first premise to say, okay, we can read it later. Yes, you can still use it. It's just not the latest version. That's it. It's there, but I don't see any breaking change if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, not yet anyway.
Maybe a last question for the last 5 minutes. If we have to write this book in this third version, I don't say we will, but in 5 years or 10 years, what will, to our mind, what will happen? What would be different?
Well, I'll go ahead and
yeah. Okay, yeah, do you cover that, Mike? That's an easy one.
All right. Well, I'll start anyway. I think the thing that I'm seeing more of now that's really just beginning, the questions people are asking, has a lot to do with discovery. I think we're really just starting to touch on what it's going to take to create a more discoverable API, discoverable for machines as well as humans. I think there's more activity going on in machine to machine, like creating API networks. So they're, you know, rather than bespoke APIs for a particular company, actually using them as what, you know, Erik has always talked about as real building blocks. We're really just on the cusp of that. And I think if we think about that as building the value chain, the way you build manufacturing chain, and you buy supplies from lots of people and you aggregate those supplies into a product, that's going to change the way we think about, you know, how we design and distribute and secure and all those kinds of things. So I think in the future, there'll be more talk about sort of the promise of what microservices were supposed to be, which were self-contained composable units. I'm seeing a lot more of that. So I suspect we'd see a lot more in the next version of the book on that.
So you see a big...
So I will shamelessly...
We have some lag. No, I just say, Mike, you were seeing a lot of unbundling. We continue to unbundle the pieces into smaller components. Yeah.
Yes, but also remember, it's also bundling. Barksdale also said there's two ways, right? And I think we're about to start on that journey of bundling again. And bundling other people's APIs means they have to be more discoverable, they have to be more interoperable, they have to be more standalone. We have to solve the problem of distributed data, so I can like bring my data to your API. There are a whole bunch of things that will have to happen next in terms of that sort of that next round. So I think there'll be aggregations, interoperability as well. Sorry, Erik, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll shamelessly plug, you know, like a thing I wrote on, or on like the future of API management, right? So, and I think this is where the book probably would change as well. So what I see how API management changed, right? Like from very low level plumbing, let's secure this API, to like more portals, consumability. I think where we are now is that we also see, well, we want consumability across a variety of platforms. So I don't just want to have my APIs that is managed by vendor 1, 2, and 3 in different places. I want to have them all in one place. So I think this is where we are now, where big organizations are seeing, hey, I should have all my APIs in one place because they're really important and not just depending on how I manage them technically. And I think the next step where we are only just beginning, really what I see, and it kind of connects to what Mike just said, right? It's more consumability. So really marketing, and not marketing so much in the sense of selling APIs necessarily, but really just thinking through, if I take API as a product seriously, and I think about it's a product that is meant to be reused, that is meant to be consumed, that only creates value when it is consumed, how do I help it to be consumed, right? How do I push it to the market that it's designed for? And that market doesn't have to be external ones paying for, right? The market can also be internal developers. How do I make the API more visible? Maybe I have like the API of the week events internally, whatever it is, right? But I think like a more explicit approach in API marketing, like how do I get those building blocks out there to be discovered and used and to really be realized in the value that they provide. I think that is something where we will see like the major developments, because I think the lower levels, right, like those parts where kind of have dialed those in, but I think the marketing part is really just beginning.
Yep, I'll go after, yeah, I think two things on a technical side. I think we will see more styles, more protocols coming. Maybe not more styles, but a lot more protocols. So Erik, what you said, like we will have a lot more competing, trying to do again another one standard or whatever that compete with previous standards. But yes, we will see a proliferation of, because of IoT, connected cars, whatever. We'll try. There will be competition on the ability to control how it's designed, the style. But I think company like Superface, for example, like Mike was saying, we will learn to design more, not only to human to integrate, but to design to other software. So we will maybe do less documentation driven design, but we will go back to some code-driven design, because it will be made mostly for softwares to be discovered and integrated automatically, more than human being the single point of the bottleneck of integration. That's what I see. But again, I think it will be a major topic only in 10 years in companies, and then it will be not a topic anymore. It will not be why, but how in most of the companies.
Yeah, 10 years is a long time, right? I mean, I am already in our practice starting to see the little seeds grow into seedlings of machine learning and training being applied to the API space. So for discoverability, for chatbots, for people who have to build the APIs, we're seeing what GitHub is doing and all of that. I think there's an inevitability there. So if you think about what API management often is, it's like resolving the pains, the life cycle. If those pains start to go away, the science fiction version is, I don't care if the API changes, because my code, all I do is push a button and it adapts to it. Then the domain is totally different, isn't it? Yep. And that's the book I'd love to write in 10 years. Maybe it's not even a book anymore. It's not a problem. And we just focus on maintaining the robots that keep us alive.
Why not? Why not? Let's see if in 10 years it makes sense to write another one. If we're here, if we're still gathering at API conferences, if they're still there, and not they're just called solution days or just days conferences. Thank you very much, Mike, Erik, Ronnie, and I. Just to say, this book is new, just 2 weeks old, right? 2 weeks old, not 2 weeks sold. But yeah, and again, I hope we will be able next year to have this panel in live at for the 10 years of Apidays conferences. So you're already invited. We'll be sure we'll do everything we can to invite you and have this this panel in real.